Welcome to Stop Dating Losers. Get your free relationship advice and so much more on my website. Subscribe and share this video with everyone you know, and let us begin, shall we? All right. First comment of the show. A little bit of a long one, but we'll get through it really quickly. Why good men fall for the wrong girl first? Good men fall for the wrong girl first because they love with purity before they learn with pain. A good man sees the world through his own loyalty, so he assumes her intentions match his. He mistakes attention for effort, softness for sincerity, and attachment for love. He gives too much too early because no one taught him that not every woman knows how to handle a pure heart. And by the time he realizes she wasn't built to receive that level of love, he's already emotionally invested. Remember, the wrong girl doesn't break him, she builds him. She teaches him boundaries, self-worth, and emotional control. After her, he becomes the man who loves deeply but never blindly. And that's why the right girl gets the upgraded version of him, not the unprotected one. All right, well, there's a lot to unpack here. We have to take it statement by statement because there's a lot going on here. Not exactly sure. I kind of sort of understand the angle, but there's some things that could work both ways. But for the purpose of simplicity, let's just keep it as this person intended. Good men fall for the wrong girl first. That's not necessarily true. What if the relationship is a great relationship and he got it right the first time? Why do men have to fail first and then go with the right woman later on? And a lot of people, unfortunately, they never do find the right one. So because they love with purity before they learn with pain. That doesn't make any sense. You can learn from your past mistakes and painful failed relationships, but you shouldn't have to go through that failure, that heartbreak in order to, what, not love with purity? I mean, what's wrong with loving with purity? You should always love with purity. You're not going to go into a relationship saying, well, she might be the wrong woman for me, so I'm going to not love with purity. Then it's not a real relationship. And you can't pretend to be somebody that you're not. You can't betray your own emotions. So that's absurd. That's utterly absurd, that first part. Second part, a good man sees the world through his own loyalty. What does that mean? So he assumes her intentions match his. Okay, so you're assuming that she's loyal as you are? That, again, it doesn't make sense. That's the way trust works. If you're afraid to trust, you're going to lose. This ultimately boils down to, all of this that this person has written boils down to, have you chosen a good candidate to potentially fall in love with, to take things to the next levels? Yes or no? Because you can't omit trust by being, like, not being as loyal as you should be. You should always be loyal and expect her to be as loyal as you are. That's the way trust works. Otherwise, why are you placing your trust in this person in the first place? So that's another failure right there. Now, the third part, he mistakes attention for effort. All right, well, that sounds like lowered expectations. Softness for sincerity. Okay, but being soft, that's a form of sincerity. Being open and vulnerable. What do you mean by softness? And attention for love. Oh, attachment for love. Okay, what does that mean? That's even worse. Attachment for love. That's what love is all about. It's about being attached. And I can't stand when people say, don't get too attached. What does that mean? Holding back on your love for your partner? That's absurd. So that's strike number 3. We're going to go through a lot of these strikes. He gives too much, too early, because no one taught him that not every woman knows how to handle this, how to handle a pure heart. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This gets way more ridiculous the more I read into it, as we're doing now. I gave this person a fair shot. Now I'm going into it with surgical precision. Gives too much too early. What's wrong with that? Once again, did you make a bad choice? Does she not deserve too much too early? Then when, what, you have to wait till later? So essentially what this person is asking you to do is to become an actor and to strategize, to play mind games with your partner. It doesn't work that way. This is not acceptable on any level. You're not making men look good by writing this. No one taught him. How do you know what anyone has taught him or didn't teach him? How do you know that? Not every woman knows how to handle a pure heart. Okay, that could be said about both men and women. So the ones that don't know how to handle, what do you mean by handle? Like, anybody should do well with the pure heart unless the woman is extremely toxic and looking to break his heart the entire time. But that red flag should be there. Very, very, very obvious. So this is just like a complete failed comment here. What a mess. What a convoluted mess here. It really is a jungle of garbage that we're looking at right here. Not every woman knows how to handle a pure heart. Wow. What are you even trying to say with that? I mean, are they going to deceive you? Because that's something else. This is really poorly worded here. And by the time he realizes she wasn't built to receive that level of love, okay, so she's being more specific here, he's already emotionally invested. Well, you're supposed to be emotionally invested in any relationship. Now, if things go south, looks like you have to retrograde. You have to exfil. You got to get out of there. But if you can't do that and you say, well, my excuse is I'm too emotionally invested, you got to get over that problem. You know, it's not a mistake to be emotionally invested is what I'm saying. You're supposed to be emotionally invested. So if you hold back on that emotional investment, then you're only doing yourself a disservice, because if you're holding back on purpose when you want to be, you're playing mind games. You're lying to your partner. You're trying to say, well, I need to find out if you're a bad woman or a good woman. You should know that from the get-go, from the very beginning. Things can change, but it takes two to tango. It's just as much your responsibility if things go south, because maybe you made the wrong choice for a potential candidate for a relationship, or, you know, you failed to read the red sign, the red flags that were starting to develop, and then pull out earlier from the relationship. It's always 50-50 in any relationship, whether it turns south or not. Half of the weight always goes on one partner, and the other one has the other half. That's just the way it's supposed to be. When you play little games like this, it's not going to turn out good. Even if you take this ridiculous advice here, all of these little steps, you're playing games, and that's not natural. It's not authentic. It's not genuine. And you're just going to mess up what could have been a good relationship if things go good. You're not being authentically yourself. So you're lying to yourself. You're lying to your partner, saying, well, I can't trust her yet. I can't be too emotionally invested. I can't be too needy, like feeling too attached. It's ridiculous. And then you wonder why so many relationships fail is because they're playing little games like this. And this is horrible advice. Horrific advice. Remember, the wrong girl doesn't break him. And I can't stand how this person keeps using girl. It's a woman, okay? Grown woman and a grown man. Grown men and grown women, okay? Enough with girl and boy. Nobody's saying boy here, right? So how can you say men and then you say girl? It makes no sense. The wrong girl doesn't break him, she builds him. Okay, that's true. But you're supposed to build each other, right? Teaches him boundaries. What kind of boundaries? That's something that you decide for yourself and share with your partner and see if they're okay with those boundaries. Self-worth, yes. And emotional control. Well, that's your own. That's your responsibility right there. You know, you could try to teach each other, but ultimately you have to take the steering wheel there. All right. So after her, he becomes. Okay, so the first relationship has to fail for him to learn anything. You know? Instead of purity, he has to learn pain first. How ridiculous is that? You know, that's like graduating from college and you get a job and, oh, you got to get fired first. And then the second job after that, that's the real job. You see how absurd that sounds? Completely and utterly absurd. Seriously. All right. This person goes on to say, he becomes the man who loves deeply but never blindly. Okay. So that's an insult to men who really want to try to love their partner, but you're saying, nah, you're loving blindly. You're not paying attention, you know. Okay, so they got to be blind before they can love deeply. Once again, they got to fail before they succeed. And that's why the right girl gets the upgraded version. It sounds like a downgraded version, if you ask me. You know, purposefully failing first so that you can see, oh, let me move on to a better woman. Oh, wait, you know, and if she's not really quite there, let me fail again on purpose and hold back my emotional investment in my purity. So then the next one, how many upgrades are there? How many levels? Well, how many versions of a man that, you know, so what? Women have to fail too, right? So we have this whole convoluted, it's completely based on failure. So women have to fail first, men have to fail first. Nobody can get it right the first time because you have to upgrade, right? You know, and not the unprotected one. It's ludicrous. This entire comment is absolutely garbage. It's one of the worst comments. Wow. Okay, let's just go ahead and move on. Unbelievable, to say the least. All right. So next comment here. The amount of time I spend on dating apps is embarrassing. What's even more embarrassing is that I have nothing to show for it. Well, of course, because you're wasting time on dating apps. And even if you were offline, playing the dating game offline, you're still wasting your life. It is embarrassing, isn't it? The amount of time you waste on dating apps, playing these little games. Let me make sure my profile looks nice and spiffy. Oh, let me upload, you know, the perfect picture with the right angle and lighting, and let me fill in all the little details, and and then you catch some fish here. Maybe you go offline with some of them there, and before you know it, you just wasted what, a decade of your life, maybe two. You got to grow up. Nothing to show for it. How sad is that? All right, let's go ahead and move on. That's too easy. Of course you have nothing to show for it. Met this guy at a wine bar. We chatted for hours, and he was cool. Conversation was dope. Wow, that's kind of archaic. By the end of the night, I gave him my Instagram because I don't trust giving my number too fast. Okay? He messaged to make sure I got home safe. Cool, right? Okay. The next morning I slept in. He texted me good morning at 7 a.m. Okay. Then again at 9:30 a.m. saying hope all is well. When I finally woke up at 10:45 a.m., I saw his last message from 10:41 a.m. that said, "You're weird, bye. It's scary out there, what the hell?" Okay, so he was never serious to begin with. That's really messed up. So, I don't know. Kind of a freaky vibe that I get there. Just because you failed to answer, you know, 2 texts. You know, this is how pathetic modern day men who rely on technology are. You know, and then, but women also play games. I'll be fair, as always. Where they say, well, you know, don't respond to him the next day. Play hard to get. Make him wait. You know, this is absurd. This is why I'm also against dating, is because men and women play these crazy little, silly little immature games. based off of horrible advice out there, and also because they think that's the right thing to do if they come up with it themselves. Maybe I'll make him wait a little bit or make her wait a little bit. Yeah, because that's how you get chicks. Yeah, that's how you really get a good man. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's all playing games. None of it is mature. None of it is genuine. Then you wonder why so many people fail in the realm of love. Complete failures. Next comment. It's wild to me that men in their 20s are more willing to date and marry women in their 40s. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, so younger people are more willing to marry women in their 40s than men in their 40s. Yeah, okay, but that's because they're full of energy, full of courage, anticipation. They're eager. That's natural. They're more willing to commit. But men in their 40s, if they've experienced failed relationships and things aren't going good, or maybe they're still single because they're playing the silly little dating game online and offline, of course they're going to be more cautious. This is natural. There's nothing remarkable about this comment. This is just a basic observation of male behavior. Of course, they're going to be more energetic in their 20s and even 30s. But the 20-year-olds, yes, there's a lot of hormones going on. Not that hormones don't exist with older men, but it's a lot more potent. It's a lot more action-packed around their 20s. So it's wild to you? Really? It's not that wild to me. I'm just going to say that. All right, last comment of the show. Men, in dating, how long do you need to date someone before you are ready to ask the person you really like to make things official? Well, official, well, good luck with that, because in dating, you're probably going to be left with the question mark the entire time. Not sure exactly who you should make things official with. That's to say, it doesn't matter how many silly dates you go on, you still can be unsure of that person. Because you guys are trying to speed up what's not supposed to be sped up. Simply getting to know each other as friends. So official, what does official mean? Now we can have sex together? Intimate relations? Yes or no? What does official mean? Like, okay, now we're officially boyfriend, girlfriend. You see how silly this little game is? This ranking up, like the upgrade comment that we talked about earlier. This ranking up situation. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, how long? You can't put a length of time on getting to know somebody. You have to go by your feelings. You have to trust your feelings. Now, ideally, it should be at least a few months, at least half a year, but that depends on how much quality time you guys spend with each other. Little dates here and there, it's going to take forever. It's going to take, I don't know, at least a complete year. But people don't like that. They don't like waiting that long. They're impatient, which is why they're dating in the first place. It's like a magical potion, the word date, the word dating. They want everything to just, like a genie in a bottle, just grant me my wish. I go out on a date, things are supposed to work out. If they don't work out, I go to the next one in line. It's like a conveyor belt of perpetual failure. And then you lower your expectations because of so many failures, and you say, well, okay, as long as they check off a few blocks here, then I just need somebody in my life. I need a body to fill in this void of loneliness. And then they just settle. And that's where the famous, ridiculous phrase, it's time to settle down, comes from. They're tired of looking, so they just settle. How ridiculous is that? So you're not really the love of my life. You're just somebody I essentially and ultimately chose to settle down with. Because we get along good, we make good companions. That's not true love, buddy. That's not true love. Well, then how do I get there? By stopping the dating game. Stop rushing. Slow down. Get to know somebody that you're really interested in. Inside and out. Sexual relations as well, if you guys take it to that level. Be patient. I mean, I'm not saying take years with it, but hey, not the more the merrier, but if you guys enjoy it, Go for it. But people are just rushing, and then they wonder why things ultimately fail. Unbelievable. But if you've made it this far, congratulations. You are one serious person. But it's time to take it one step further by becoming a free member on my website for free relationship advice and so much more that you'll be truly surprised with. Much love, everybody.